Did you know that parents rank financial literacy as the #1 most difficult life skill to teach? Meet Greenlight, the debit card and money app for families. With Greenlight, you can send money to kids quickly, set up chores, automate allowance, and keep an eye on your kids' spending with real-time notifications. Kids learn to earn, save, and spend wisely. And parents can rest easy knowing their kids are learning about money with guardrails in place. Try Greenlight risk-free today at greenlight.com/getstarted. That's GREENLIGHT.com/getstarted.
Hello and welcome to Citation Needed, the podcast where we choose a subject, read a single article about it on Wikipedia, and pretend we're experts, because this is the internet and that's how it works now. I'm Noah, and I'm going to be this cult's charismatic leader this week, but what's a cult without a few disciples? First up, two guys who aren't catching that comment if it doesn't slow the fuck down, Cecil and Heath.
I will, however, lasso the moon for you.
I like Ted Lasso. I wasn't ready for that. I just did an association.
No worries.
Only this show we're scripted.
Can't always.
You said that off
And
script.
also joining us tonight, two guys who want to spike the punch at Jonestown, Eli and Tom.
Well, excuse me for wanting to go out smiling, Noah. Okay, I just wanted to have a little fun.
Hey, putting the jungle in jungle juice since 1978.
Fuck yeah. And before we dive in, I want to thank our patrons. Thanks.
Nice.
Sometimes it's just
Straight up
straightforward.
thanks.
Sometimes it doesn't
Absolutely.
always have to be a thematic bit. Yeah. So, and of course, if you'd like to learn how to join their ranks, be sure to stick around to the end of the show. And with that out of the way, tell us, Heath, what person, place, thing, concept, phenomenon, or event will we be talking about today?
We're going to be talking about companies that are heavily tied to religious cults.
Interesting. Okay, so how did you land on that topic?
Well, Noah, like all my amazing, great, genius ideas, this one started when I was doing some very serious journalism, like I do, about international commerce and also the metaphysical underpinnings of our universe. So I went on Instagram.
And you fuck with me for Bill Bryson and you're okay. All right.
Well, thanks to some guy on Instagram doing, those obnoxious, like, one man, two character videos they all do. I don't like those. One of those guys was doing that, and I learned that Celestial Seasonings tea is run by a crazy person who is a prominent leader in a cult. And I learned that the same goes for a bunch of other companies when I did a little bit more research. Even if you take away the cults called all the major religions in the world, it's still pretty hard to avoid spending money that eventually lands in the bank account of a sociopath who nobody would have sex with until he turned himself into a magical godhead wizard or something like that.
Okay, patrons, do not listen to that man. I'm unlikely to turn into a wizard.
Okay, just magical godhead for time. And pretty much every time with those magical godhead wizards, they start selling stuff. Apparently, that's like most of capitalism. So we're going to talk about some of the culty companies and their backstories. Okay, but if we don't dedicate a section to everywhere that says, we're like a family here, but doesn't have paid maternity leave, I do this episode under protest.
Yeah. Well, so now to be clear, you're talking about companies that start as cults, right? So like as opposed to like Apple and Tesla and stuff like that.
Exactly. Yeah. So before we get into the cult of sleepy time herbs, I'll give you some of the other examples I found of companies that are tied to cults. And again, I'm a very serious podcast journalist. So, but I'm serious. I didn't get all my information on Instagram. I also had a listicle on Ranker. So let's start with a citation needed topic from all the way back in January of 2018, the Challenger. Turns out that whole disaster was thanks to cult leader and convicted sex criminal Warren Jeffs. He's the president of the Fundamentalist Latter-day Saints, or FLDS. To be clear, that's not the perfectly reasonable LDS church that's known for sex crimes and rampant fraud. This is the fundamentalist offshoot of the LDS church that's known for also sex crimes and rampant fraud. The FLDS split off in 1890 because God told them that you have to have abusive polygamy, and the main LDS church in 1890 was ending that practice.
Yeah, we're toning down the abusive to just damaging. It's not you, it's me. It's me.
It's not y'all, it's me in this instance. But yeah.
Yeah, so the Mormon Church of 1890 that recognized black people having souls 88 years
Jesus
later.
Christ.
They were too woke for the FLDS. That's our context for this cult. Warren Jeffs, his father, Rulon Jeffs, ruled the cult for decades from their fortified compound in Utah, where Rulon received messages from God about the extreme importance of that abusive polygamy.
Just if your message of eternal love means you have to preach it from a fortified compound, maybe you're a little wacko.
Yeah, you don't need fortified compounds. You just don't need those if you're cool. So during his time as the leader guy, Rulon amassed 50 wives, many of whom were children.
Okay.
Warren eventually took over in 2002 and did lots of those same things. He's currently serving a life sentence in prison for a bunch of that, but he's also terrible because he murdered 7 astronauts and almost murdered Big Bird from Sesame Street.
Mhm.
That's right.
What?
The Challenger was his fault. During the early 80s, Warren noticed the economic opportunity that's afforded by having a giant unpaid workforce of cult members, and he started several companies. That includes a manufacturing company called Hydra-Pack, which got the government contract to supply NASA with O-rings. They were really bad O-rings, as it turned out, and the Challenger exploded. More importantly, don't worry if you really enjoy the water bottles and performance hydration reservoirs, whatever the fuck that means, from Hydra-Pack. That's actually a different company, the new Hydra-Pack. The bad one changed its name to Western Precision.
Well, and then some other company was like, well, finally, we can have the name of the guys that blew up the Challenger. Why?
That was a weird move. Yeah. Okay, but now that we're on the subject of companies to consider avoiding, yeah, the FLDS, super bad, but so is the regular LDS, and they own a bunch of stuff too. Major companies with ties to the Mormon Church include Marriott Hotels, Black & Decker, and Eli's favorite airline, JetBlue.
They have free snacks and TV. Don't ruin this for me, Ethan, right? Don't you ruin this for me.
Was Black & Decker originally called Laminite and Decker? Was that?
All right, next up, we have the cults of breakfast cereal. There's more than one. So longtime listeners might remember the story of John Harvey Kellogg from way back in episode 11. So in case anybody missed it, John Harvey Kellogg started a cult based on Seventh-day Adventism, as well as the Battle Creek Sanitarium. He also started that, where he claimed to cure all ailments using a combination of eugenics, celibacy, and cornflakes from his brother's cereal company. If you followed his advice of chewing every bite exactly 40 times, and being white, I guess, you'd be healthy forever.
Which is why John is still alive. John, welcome to the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, John Harvey Kellogg. Oh, that'd be so cool. What's the voice for him? Doesn't matter. So here's the new cereal cult that I just learned about. Apparently, the Purina Company has a very similar origin story to Kellogg's. It starts in the late 1800s with a self-proclaimed fitness guru named Webster Edgerly, who started a pseudoscience propaganda mill called the Ralston Health Club. And just like Kellogg, the business model for Edgerly was white power and crunchy cereal. Like, seriously, both of them. One of his followers was the owner of Purina, and Edgerly wangled a deal that made him a partner in the company, and the company renamed itself to Ralston Purina. And he had the company start making whole grain cereal to cleanse whatever. Using the profits, Edgerly established a cult community for his followers in Eli Bosnick's Hopewell, New Jersey, that he called a whites-only utopia. The core principle was creating a new race of humans that was free from, quote, impurities.
Yeah, and y'all, I checked around my neighborhood. Good news, he did not succeed.
So a couple other details about Edgerly. He was also a prolific author who wrote books on a variety of very important topics, including sex magnetism and how to become immortal and acting.
How to become died in 1926. How to become immortal. But those who can't teach, I guess. So
So in terms of the acting, Eli, I'm curious to hear your thoughts about this acting stuff. In Edgerly's book called Lessons in the Art of Acting, he made a big list of possible emotions, and he explained how to portray each one as an actor. For example, to do frenzy, you just need to, quote, incline the head backward, looking up, and clutch the hair with both hands.
Well, I'm glad you asked, Heath, because actually gesture-based acting was the standard until
No, nobody cares. Obviously, I was kidding. Just do it in your essay or whatever.
Maybe I will do a whole essay on it. Maybe.
Okay. But seriously, what did Stanislavski say? What
Stanislavski is the first person who advises actors to work from the inside out, right? Whereas opposed from the outside in, because you were just imitating. Oh, I thought you were going to interrupt me. And this
I was
bit
so sure.
sucks.
I really wanted to. I really wanted to jump in again. But I kind of wanted to
show together, friends.
I feel like you know stuff.
I'll
Boo,
tell you
nerd.
the score of the Michigan
Shut
game.
up. No information.
The score of the Michigan game right
Learning's dumb. Learning's stupid. Moving on. I hate you.
ESPN.com has numbers for me to read to you.
Slur word. Okay, moving on. Also worth noting about Edgerly, he invented a language, sort of. He called it Adam Man Tongue. He chose the name because Adam Man Tongue is, quote, the language of man founded upon the primitive Adam roots and terms that are the watchwords of universal speech.
that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean
it's nonsense.
That doesn't.
That was nonsense in English, and then he tried to do another language.
Like Jordan
bad idea.
Peterson.
But I did.
Yeah, can you actually speak that in Kermit? Maybe I would. Maybe some of. Yeah,
That would have been much better. Yeah,
we'll get Jorpy to do it.
I actually posted a sample. You guys can see it here. It's a sample from his Adam Man language book, so you had an idea of what it looked like. It's very silly.
Yeah, podcast listener, you can't see this, but Heath has posted a conversation about the weather. And to Edgerly's credit, conversations about the weather do become more interesting when they're incredibly difficult to read.
It's true. There are words in this that are spelled WQM, NQN, and W Delta 1H Theta.
Also, if any listener looks this up, I want you to know that this is literally how every script looks after Eli writes in it. This is it.
I'm amazed Noah could tell this wasn't just jokes I had written.
I don't know. This is functionally indistinguishable from a text from my teen son, so I don't.
This is all fair.
Thing.
Yeah, so that guy who invented that language was in charge of the Ralston Purina Company, which made pet food and cereal for decades. Their cereal portfolio included Chex and, most importantly, Cookie Crisp.
Cookie Crisp is pretty fucking important.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. Here's the thing. Don't worry. You can still eat those. In 1997, the cereal division got purchased by General Mills. And I'm sure there's nothing evil happening with that giant food company. It'll be fine. And in terms of the pet food, that part of Purina is now owned by Nestle. And Nestle's biggest shareholder is BlackRock, the giant multinational investment firm. Again, nothing to worry about.
Okay.
Good
And
tippers.
fun fact, according to Nestle's official corporate history, they disavowed their own history. According to them, Webster Edgerly does not exist. That's a hoax. Instead, they attribute the name Ralston to a fictional character they made up called Dr. Ralston.
Nestle, I know that it's like the 20th most evil thing you do, but I don't think you just get to pretend your former owner is a defunct mascot like the Noid.
And that brings us to our first tea-based cult. But I'll start with a quick note on tea in general. If you want to drink tea without funding liars, you pretty much have to cultivate and harvest your own leaves.
Yeah.
Most of the big companies are at the very least claiming that tea leaves have some sort of magic. They do not. They don't have magic. Despite centuries of claims, we're not aware of any combination of leaves and hot water that cure cancer or boost the immune system, whatever the fuck that means, or detoxify your endoplasmic reticulum, whatever they're saying, it doesn't do that. If you like the taste of tea and maybe caffeine sometimes, that's what tea can provide. Sadly, it also provides money for cults. One big example is a product called Yogi Tea.
You don't say.
Yeah. Yeah. It's made by a company that was started by It's made by a company that was started by a cult leader named Yogi Bhajan. He moved from India to the US in 1969 and claimed to be a guru of Sikh spirituality, Ayurveda, and tantric yoga. He was none of those things. He was a customs inspector. That's his entire job there. Also, even if he was all those things, those are nothing. You can stretch and eat healthy without any of that. So he gets to California and he notices that facts don't matter to the boomers of 1969. So he starts a cult and he makes millions. Somehow, he ended up lying his way into meeting with Pope John Paul II and the Dalai Lama, and also became a yoga mentor to Indira Gandhi when she was Prime Minister of India.
When the doors closed on that meeting between the Pope and the Dalai Lama and this guy, who do you think was the first to say, "So how sweet is lying to desperately poor people to live like a god king?" Am I right? I bet it was the Pope. I bet the Pope led, but I bet they all.
And of course, the cult started culting at that point. In addition to all the, boilerplate stuff like horrible sexual abuse, financial fraud, and torture, before this guy died in 2004, he also started 2 companies that still exist today and make a bunch of money for the surviving cult. One of the companies is Yogi Tea, which made about $60 million last year. And their flagship blend of tea is made of cinnamon, ginger, cardamom, black pepper, and cloves. And according to Yogi Bhajan, it increases circulation, decreases joint stiffness, and enhances digestion, all whilst decreasing gas and nausea. Don't buy their tea because it's a cult. The other company is called Akal Security, which now earns about $500 million a year in government contracts to protect American military bases and airports. Yeah. Don't buy their insane paramilitary consulting, I guess, if you're in charge of that.
Cinnamon, ginger, cardamom, black pepper, and cloves were the first draft of the Spice Girl names, too.
A little bit less problematic. Yeah. So the list of culty companies, it could keep going for a while, but I'll just give a quick warning about a few more before we get to the celestial seasonings insanity. So if you're a big designer vintage jacket person who enjoys bedazzled denim, as I'm sure many of you are.
Listening.
Yeah. Think about avoiding Tony Alamo's jackets, like the one Michael Jackson wore on the cover of Bad. Also seen more recently being worn by Nicki Minaj, A$AP Rocky, and Miley Cyrus. Other ones, let's see. If you're looking for news, don't read the Washington Times. That is not the same as the Washington Post. The Washington Times is owned by the Unification Church. That's the cult started by the Reverend Sun Myung Moon. Also, don't eat at the Yellow Deli chain, cult. Don't eat at Chick-fil-A, Christianity, cult. Don't eat at most of the major fast food chains, sadly, because Republican donors. Pretty much, don't spend money at any corporations of business larger than maybe a couple dozen people.
Noah, Heath is slipping into no ethical consumption under capitalism. Quick, commercial break. Commercial break, Noah. Quick.
Yeah, right. No, for a counterpoint now, I guess we're going to advertise for a company with more than a couple dozen employees, probably. And then we're going to kick it over for a little apropos of nothing.
I don't know about you, Tom, but this episode is sort of making me cognitively dissonant.
Me too, Eli. There's so many complicated questions of morality, it's hard to keep up with them.
Sounds like somebody needs to try It's Complicated.
It's complicated?
Doesn't count. This is not a puzzle show. This doesn't count.
No, we said you can't start your own podcast for points. This is different. This is a different situation.
What are they doing?
Don't worry about it. It's Complicated Once Daily Capsules will reduce all the hard moral questions about ethical consumption down to a general feeling of unease that patients are calling bearable. Okay, I guess. And only a problem if I think about it for too long.
Sounds great, but how does it work?
I'm glad you asked, Tom. Say you're dealing with a moral quandary you'd rather not think about. Well, have you considered all possible factors that contribute to the question and all available information known and unknown?
Wow, no, I guess not.
That's right, because it's complicated. And that means you're off the hook.
Yeah, I guess it does.
I don't know, guys. Can't people just try their best to consume ethically and not make the standard some kind of arbitrary outside view of perfection?
Shut the fuck up, Cecil.
You have an iPhone.
You think you're better than me?
Never mind.
Used for hundreds of generations, It's Complicated gets the grit out of any complicated moral question, from politics to the fact that your grandpa probably hit your grandma. It's Complicated does the trick.
I don't feel better, but the helplessness leaves me numb enough to move on.
It's complicated because trying is just admitting that you could fail.
Let's be honest. Most of us have a love-hate relationship with wired bras. We love the lift, but hate the digging. We love the support, but hate feeling trapped. Well, Knix just changed everything with FreeFlex, a wired bra actually designed to work with your body, not against it. FreeFlex features a revolutionary flexible wire that moves when you move, bends when you bend, and keeps everything exactly where you want it. No poking, no stabbing, no constant readjusting, just freedom to move. It also has a demi-cup shape for a natural lift with a lower neckline that flatters in everything from V-necks to dresses. And because it's from Knix, it's available in sizes for every body. Experience the first wired bra you'll actually want to wear all day. Visit Knix.com for 15% off your order with FreeFlex15. That's KNIX.com, code FreeFlex15 for 15% off. Knix.com.
Get this. Adults with financial literacy skills have 82% more wealth than those who don't. From swimming lessons to piano classes, us parents invest in so many things to enrich our kids' lives. But are we investing in their future financial success? With Greenlight, you can teach your kids financial literacy skills like earning, saving, and investing. And this investment costs less than that after-school treat. Start prioritizing their financial education and future today with a risk-free trial at greenlight.com/getstarted. That's GREENLIGHT.com/getstarted.
And we're back. When we last left off, we were feeling better about ourselves than we are after that fucking sketch. Heath, quick, tell us more about people who are worse than us.
Yeah,
all right,
grandma
well, that
hit
brings
his
us-
grandpa probably, so he's feeling great.
Nope. Okay, but that does bring us to Celestial Seasonings. They're the largest tea company in North America, selling about 1.6 billion cups of tea every year, which earns them about $100 million.
Okay, so admittedly, that's a lot, but counting by the cups, right? Would that be like us multiplying our listeners by how many words they hear? We do 60 trillion
Exactly.
words of
Thank you,
podcasting.
Noah.
That's the number I tell people. My new in-laws. So the company was started in 1969 by a hippie guy in Colorado named Mo Siegel, who wanted to bring herbal tea into the American mainstream. So he hiked into the Rocky Mountains with a team of friends and harvested enough herbs to make 500 pounds of tea. Then he put a sample into a Tupperware container and went down to a local bank to get a business loan. And apparently that just works right away if you're a white guy in 1969. And he got it. He opened a production facility and named the company Celestial Seasonings based on the flower name of his lady friend at the time.
He did.
Yeah, the company name was also very likely inspired by a New Age religion manifesto called the Urantia Book, which has a cult known as the Urantia Foundation. Mo Siegel is a very prominent leader in that group now, and he based his entire business philosophy for the tea company on this ridiculous book. According to the Urantia Foundation, their book is, quote, an epical revelation authored solely by celestial beings.
What?
End quote. And the main goal of the celestial beings in that, apparently eugenics, if you read any further.
Okay. Anyone else picturing like 3 angels and a djinn throwing a basketball into a little mini hoop in a rented office space while they write this thing? Just like, huh?
Some guy's like, this is our totally cool lax workspace, man. Let me show you the re-education break room. It's right down here.
That doesn't sound chill. Yeah. So let's learn about the Urantia book and its religion of celestial white power. And of course, it all starts in Chicago, Illinois. The book was written
Why does it start? What?
by...
Of course. What the fuck are you talking about?
We all know how that
we all
segue
know.
went and
We all
why.
know what, Heath.
Come on.
You wrote this book, Cecil. That's what we know. You wrote the Urantia book.
Are you the Urantia book?
You have to tell
You
us.
have to tell us if you are.
Yeah.
This is the deep dish of religious manifesto cults.
Delicious. Satisfying.
The book was written either by racist alien demigods in a realm outside of spacetime, or by a guy in Chicago who definitely wrote the book in the 1920s. Hard to say. You decide. It's
probably the
2,097 pages long.
Jesus.
And it was
Fuck.
officially published for the first time in 1955.
Yo, that's more than if we added the David Icke book that you guys read to the ones that we read together. If we put those
Jesus.
together, still less.
Let's do that
It's
instead of
a
C.S.
lot.
Lewis. Let's do that. I want to do that one.
It's so much. So the Chicago guy I'm talking about is William Sadler, a psychiatrist and a student of Sigmund Freud. Not great. According to Sadler, the content of the Urantia book came from a neighbor in his building who was in a state of intergalactic hypnosis. In 1911, that neighbor guy started speaking in tongues, and he said, I'm a student visitor from a distant planet. In a different language, I guess. Sadler says he eventually figured out that other language.
Wow.
It's called Uversa, by the way. And he had to translate Uversa into Salvington.
What?
And then from that into Satania. And finally to English. But he did figure it out. So Sadler did the translations. And he spoke with this voice and several other voices for about 10 years. And then in the early 1920s, Sadler and his wife and some of their friends put together a list of 4,000 questions for the alien demigods to answer. And a few weeks later, lo and behold, that neighbor had dictated answers to everything.
Wow.
Guys, please stop asking the alien demigod how many fingers I'm holding up. You're going to get us all vaporized.
We're in trouble. Yeah. So, just to be clear about this backstory, the neighbor was being channeled by alien demigods who were communicating all their extremely important revelations to people of Earth for the very first time. According to the cult, these were instructions about the fate of the universe. But I think they're lying because chunks of the book were later found to be plagiarized from existing books.
Oh my God.
Well, that works at Harvard too. So
Yeah.
Work at Harvard.
Yeah, right. So, man, I wish this asshole could just translate his book from a magic rock and a hat like a normal cult leader, right? Said someone who really heard this story. Yeah.
Problematic than that guy. Yeah. And just a quick side note. If you claim that direct trance revelations are a thing, that can easily backfire. And that's exactly what happened with the Urantia cult. In the 1990s, a bunch of cult members were like, hold on, I now am getting a revelation from the alien gods. It says I'm the new leader guy, and everyone gives me blowjobs and candy right now because the alien demigod said so. And the cult had to spend like the next decade having revelation duels with their members about this, making new rules about making new rules on new rules on new rules, and trying to discredit the fake revelations from alien demigods compared to their real ones. So, another important piece of context here, William Sadler and his wife Lena were deep into the study of eugenics. William actually got his first job as a psychiatrist working at John Harvey Kellogg's Battle Creek Sanitarium for Cornflakes and Eugenics. And one of William's favorite books was The Passing of the Great Race, which claims that Northern European Nordic people are the ideal race.
Yikes.
And argues that cleansing the gene pool of other races would fix human society. And Lena, his wife, also a doctor, wrote that eugenics would, quote, eliminate at least 90% of crime, insanity, feeble-mindedness, Morinism, and abnormal sexuality, not to mention many other forms of defectiveness and degeneracy. Thus, within a century, our asylums, prisons, and state hospitals would be largely emptied. End exact quote.
Okay, yeah, but then who would keep our Illinois governor's company?
You're not listening, Tom. 90% of criminals and feeble-minded people would be gone. There wouldn't be an Illinois.
Oh,
Shots fired. And fun fact, Lena Sadler was the daughter of John Harvey Kellogg's half-brother. Other fun fact, Lena's sister Anna was married to that neighbor guy who dictated the Urantia book during the alien demigod trance. And that neighbor is believed to be Wilfred Custer Kellogg, the full nephew of John Harvey Kellogg. So, according to my math, fucking gross.
Right?
I mean, not according to your math, Heath, but someone's math.
Yeah, whatever.
Is their idea of eugenics just plugging a power strip into one of its own open outlets? I don't understand what's happening.
Infinite power.
That's the cult flag right there. So, in the interest of being fair and balanced, I decided to find a primer on the Urantia book from a source who's not pre-biased with, ivory tower skepticism. So I looked on Medium, where they don't gatekeep the title of journalist.
Where you go.
Require education.
Yep.
No, they do not.
And I found an article from cult member Chad Gates entitled, "The Best Book Ever Written Has No Human Author, the Urantia Book." And he starts with a quote. It says, "Your spirit rests ever so gently on the upper reaches of your mind, but it takes practice to perceive it. My mom."
Hey, look, if it wasn't a needlepoint, that wasn't wisdom, okay?
So from there, we get a quick summary of the Urantia book. Quote, "Urantia book is a post-biblical revelation to this world. No one really knows where it came from. But we do, though."
We just told us in the essay podcast.
Continuing. "We learn the universe is a giant unfinished project being built on the individual decisions of ascending mortals like us. God indwells our young minds and participates with us in our struggles in order to overcome the only problem with perfection, i.e., a perfect being cannot experience imperfection."
Heath, I
End
did not
quote.
spend 3 years reading David Icke's word salad only to watch it creep over here to this show, okay?
In fairness, in Christianity, a perfect being created imperfect beings so he could kill them all and then apologize with a prism. So maybe religious listeners should hold back their chuckles.
That's true.
Yeah, this is
Fair.
post-biblical. They learn from it.
Yeah.
So at this point, somebody yelled from the back while this guy was writing his article, "What about Lucifer and the atheists teaming up a whole bunch of years ago?" By which I mean nobody, nothing. There's no back. What back would that? That's nonsense. But regardless, the summary continues. "Great question, nobody from the fucking back. Lucifer led an atheist rebellion about 200,000 years ago. Earth, or Urantia, was one of many worlds that participated and was quarantined. This tragedy resulted in our opportunity for the exercise of faith, which is the key to our long afterlife ascension career and eventual destiny with God in the geographical center of infinity." End quote.
Heath, you had me at geographic center of infinity.
Right? Yes. I found it, Tom. I'm there. Tag.
Yeah, it's the picture of Kurt Vonnegut doing the asshole. Yeah, for sure. So here's what it says in the Urantia book about the origin story of Earth. Turns out the Bible had lots of the names right, but they missed the outer space part. Jesus is the Son of God, but he's actually just one of the billions of different space Jesus is that God sends to each planet to fix it.
Right, like the probe droids from Empire Strikes Back, which were also killed by frightened locals, but it was really a self-destruction.
Interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, reinterpretation.
So we also learned that Earth, or Urantia, is planet number 606 in a planetary group called Satania. You'll remember that's also the name of one of the many alien god languages that William Sadler figured out. And the HQ for Satania is called Jerusalem, not Jerusalem.
Close.
Just different.
Very close.
Different thing. When Earthlings die, the team at Jerusalem HQ reincarnates people on a new planet to continue their quest. And eventually, if you're good, you keep getting bumped up the planets or whatever, then you land on planet Paradise where God lives.
It's like Frogger.
And there's a tiny little God implant inside each of our brains. It's called a thought adjuster, and it helps us find the right path. Now, here's the thing. The adjuster can't directly help you.
More like Hubert,
but they can
then.
give you little hints along the way. And I cannot stress this enough. I'm not exaggerating about this. The human origin section of the book of Urantia starts by literally ranking the races.
Wow.
There are 6 of the races: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and indigo.
I don't think that's right.
The indigo race is black people. They're the indigo race. And the book says that's the lowest rank.
Wow.
The highest rank is people with, shockingly, fair skin and blue eyes. And that's the red race, apparently, with the blue eyes and the white skin.
And the blue are people who are holding their breath until they get to be number 1.
That's right. So apparently the 6 colors of humans just showed up on Earth about 500,000 years ago. According to the book, quote, the earlier races are somewhat superior to the later. The red man, this is just sick for everything I'm about to say. It's really a quote. I can't avoid saying it all. The red man stands far above the indigo black race. Each succeeding evolutionary manifestation of a distinct group of mortals represents variation at the expense of the original endowment. The yellow race usually enslaves the green, while the blue man subdues the indigo.
Man, the extended lyrics to Particle Man are fucking dark, you guys.
Weird stuff. And
they never play that second verse. You know what I mean? They never play the second verse. That's the problem.
You see why now.
And this is where the story of Christianity comes into play. Sort of, with Adam and Eve. Turns out Adam and Eve are fair-skinned, blue-eyed aliens who got sent to every planet in the universe to, quote, upstep the natives of
Sounds
those
racist.
planets. Sure does, and it is. By upstep, they mean, like, for real, the Aryan aliens are supposed to breed with the other colors that I ranked earlier until the planet's gene pool is cured. But unlike the perfectly successful intergalactic eugenics program on all these other planets, Adam and Eve fucked up the plan when they got to Earth, Urantia 606, whatever. The book says, quote, having failed to achieve race harmonization by the Adamic technique, you must now work out your planetary problem of race improvement by other and largely human methods of adaptation and control, end quote.
Okay, so the wisdom of the aliens was, have you tried just fucking your problems away? And then when that doesn't work, they shrug?
Yeah, right.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's the story.
Also, I'm sorry, like, largely human methods? Is there one like, is that our problem? We need to bring a super wise otter into this at some point?
Listen, a really dumb otter would be much better than everything in this book. So yeah, for sure. So a major goal for the cult is to switch out Christianity with space Christianity, the correct version with the white people. The Urantia Foundation vehemently claims they're absolutely not a cult. But anyone who's read the book knows full well that the divine space revelator, named the brilliant evening star of Nebadon, tells everyone to get rid of Christianity and replace it with, exact quote, a new cult. It's going to be the true religion of the future in the book.
Okay, well, if you read it, I mean, no, we weren't expecting anyone to read it.
Much like many cults, they hope you don't really read all the stuff in their thing.
Yeah, Catholicism.
Yeah, Christianity. So this book, the Urantia book, it's full of science claims that the cult members love to mention as evidence of their futurism. The book got it right. But there's two major problems with that. One, the scientific claims have all the exact mistakes of a person who learned science before 1955. when the book was published.
Right.
Huh.
Wow.
And two, the revelator alien voice who dictated the book made it very clear that he'd love to tell us all about, future inventions that aren't here yet. But his boss just won't let him because that would cheapen the spiritual journey of finding fucking Space Christ. It actually says in the book, we cannot tell you yet. That's what it says.
Yeah, you'd think one divine revelation would try some moon boots. Am I right? It's like they're all guys making shit up. It's just a weird dynamic.
Yeah, so fun book, good stuff. If we do have any seekers in the audience, now that you've heard all this, you can download this amazing celestial book in its entirety for free.
Ooh.
And the reason for that is, I think my favorite part, the Urantia Foundation tried to sell the book for years, but eventually a court ruling made the book public domain because the foundation itself was claiming the authorship was alien demigods, and the alien demigods never filed for copyright protection.
You really got to file
And the
for
cult had to be like,
copyright.
yeah, that's correct. Yep, fine. So, if you're interested, grab a nice hot Snapple and
That will cure your fucking diseases. And if you had to summarize what you've learned in one sentence, what would it be?
religion is bad. Don't
It's a
do
bad
All
thing.
of them are bad. They're all
As it
bad
turns
ones.
out. All right, so are you ready for the quiz?
Ready.
All right, Heath, you mentioned a bunch of white supremacist cults, but you haven't talked about any of the non-white supremacist ones. Why is that? A, whiteness is a nonsensical construct with no scientific or physiological basis. B, therefore, whiteness can only exist in contrast to the, by definition, ever-changing perception of non-whiteness. C, this means whiteness can only ever define itself through supremacy or inferiority. Or D, and nobody's going to fucking choose inferiority for their race.
I choose inferiority for white people on behalf of white people. I think most of them would be fine with that, right?
Oh, yeah, secret answer E. It's white people are inferior.
Yeah, I can't imagine them freaking out about critical race theory.
Yeah.
That's hard to imagine.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Also, I'm allowed to make fun of white people. That's why I picked this one.
I don't know. You have to prove to me you're
White
white.
people can't make jokes about anything else. I want my Netflix special now.
Clap on the 2 and the 4. Prove it to me.
All right,
Yeah.
Heath, I know you've grown tired of being pigeonholed into the same tired jokes about your love of incest porn and eugenics. So obviously you, A, wrote an essay about a cult formed by ranking the races,
Don't do this.
B,
Don't do this, Tom.
and which definitely had incest going on it.
it's not.
C,
Did I say that?
the lady doth protest too much, methinks. D, his next essay may be on the history of very tall men.
Wow.
I don't get it's
Your
pass.
cho-
I pass.
The only safe answer. Yes, indeed.
All right, Heath, what's the best name for your beverage-based white cult? A,
Jesus Christ.
Plowed Boys. B,
Fantastic.
B, Broth Keepers. C, Perry Arians. Or D,
Harry Arians. Oh.
the Tea Party.
Oh, that's so good. I'm gonna go with C. Perrierian.
Fuck yeah, obviously.
Sure, correct, I guess. Yes, correct.
Why not?
Nice.
Or not. I think we all knew it was obvious that as soon as we heard Plowed Boys, Cecil was
good.
the winner this
So
week.
good.
So
Oh,
Cecil,
Plowed Boys.
you are
Yes,
this
that's
week's
right.
winner.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, it's gonna be Tom. So Tom,
Yay.
it's you. Tag.
All right. Well, for Heath, Cecil, Tom, and Eli, I'm Noah. Thank you for hanging out with us today. We're going to be back next week. And by then, Tom will be an expert on something else. Between now and then, you'll find us on at least one of all but 7 podcasts in the universe. And if you'd like to help keep this show going, you can make a per episode donation at patreon.com/citationpod or leave a 5-star review everywhere you can. And if you'd like to get in touch with us, check out past episodes, connect with us on social media, or check the show notes, be sure to check out citationpod.com.
And then this weekend, we're headed over to Salton for a climate change summit march thing.
Oh, you're going to drive to a climate change summit?
Yeah, it's like an hour away. I don't know.
Okay. I mean, it's just like, hold on. Sorry. Time for my pill.
Anyway, that's the weekend.
Cool. Sounds fun.
It will be fun.
Nice.
This message comes from Greenlight. Ready to start talking to your kids about financial literacy? Meet Greenlight, the debit card and money app that teaches kids and teens how to earn, save, spend wisely, and invest with your guardrails in place. With Greenlight, you can send money to kids quickly, set up chores, automate allowance, and keep an eye on your kids' spending with real-time notifications. Join millions of parents and kids building healthy financial habits together on Greenlight. Get started risk-free at greenlight.com/get-started. That's GREENLIGHT.com/get started.